Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving right into the fascinating and honestly somewhat daunting 250-year journey of human progress. We're going to map out the macroscopic forces driving our current climate crises. This isn't just a look at where we are today, it's a deep dive into the very origins of how our modern world was built and the unintended consequences that came right along for the ride. Now, I want to start us off with a really poignant thought. The greatest threat to our planet is the belief that someone else will save it. That really sets a serious tone for us today, right? Before we rewind time to understand exactly how we arrived at this critical juncture, it reminds us that understanding this data isn't just an academic exercise, it's a matter of active collective responsibility. We simply can't outsource the solution.
Part 1. The Industrial Catalyst. This is where the story of modern sustainability, or, well, the lack thereof, truly kicks off.
Think about this for a second. For millennia, human progress was a slow, steady, almost imperceptible incline. But suddenly, over the last 250-plus years, with the advent of fossil fuels and mechanized infrastructure, we completely and radically altered business, politics, and society. To put that into perspective, if human history was a 24-hour clock, this radical transformation happened in essentially the last few seconds. We ignited the engine of human industry and it completely transformed our relationship with the planet.
Which brings us to our second section, the boom of progress.
Almost overnight, human advancements began stacking up with unbelievable momentum. We're talking major agricultural innovation, stuff like synthetic fertilizers and mechanization that massively boosted our food supply. Then you add in medical advances like vaccines and basic sanitation, which drastically reduced mortality rates. Naturally, this led to rising incomes, enabling even better healthcare and nutrition, and finally, rapid urbanization, as millions of people migrated to cities to fuel all this new economic activity. It was a literal golden age of human prosperity.
And because of those incredible advancements in medicine and agriculture we just talked about, people started living longer, healthier, and more productive lives. This actually pushed our global population past the 8 billion mark where we are today. It's a massive triumph of human ingenuity, no doubt about it. But it's a triumph that comes with an unimaginably massive footprint.
And that leads us right into part 3, the endless growth illusion. So, the neoclassical economic ideal basically told us that GDP growth strictly equals progress. The idea was that increased production and consumption automatically equate to a better world. But the reality is starkly different. This model assumes infinite resources on a finite planet, which, as you can guess, is fundamentally unsustainable in the long run. It generates unstable, recurring economic crises, it's notoriously poor at distributing benefits equitably among those 8 billion people, and is completely incapable of managing environmental limits.
Moving right along to Section 4, the Great Acceleration.
The data here from researcher Will Steffen and his colleagues is absolutely staggering. They track 12 different socioeconomic indicators, and every single one shows a dramatic hockey stick curve of exponential growth right around the year 1950. As individual wealth rose, it drove an exponential demand for goods and services. And the trade-off? An unprecedented deterioration of ecosystems, massive biodiversity loss, and severe resource exhaustion. Ironically, almost all of this planetary degradation happened in essentially just 50 years.
Because of this extreme shift, we'd actually engineered a brand new geological era. Nobel laureate Paul Crutzen coined this term back in the year 2000, the Anthropocene. Basically, we have fundamentally departed from the Holocene, which was the stable epoch that allowed human civilization to develop in the first place, and we've entered a new highly unstable Earth epoch defined almost entirely by human activity and dangerous ecological tipping points.
Which brings us to our fifth and final section, pushing planetary boundaries.
To really grasp the sheer scale of this hockey stick growth, let's look at our atmosphere. Carbon dioxide has seen a massive 50% jump since 1750. We are now sitting at a concentration of over 420 parts per million. This is literally the heavy blanket wrapping around the globe, driven directly by that industrial catalyst we talked about earlier.
And our oceans have absorbed a huge amount of this shock. They act as a giant carbon sink, but it comes at a tremendous cost. The data shows a severe 30% increase in ocean acidification, specifically an increase in hydrogen ions, since 1750. To put that simply, marine waters are becoming actively hostile to the very base of the marine food chain, which threatens entire underwater ecosystems that millions of us rely on. So this atmospheric and oceanic shift acts as a rapid driver for global surface temperatures. We are already at a 1.2 degrees Celsius increase globally compared to pre-industrial times. Now, I know that might sound like a tiny number, but in planetary terms, it is a massive, highly destabilizing fever.
Meanwhile, on land, the endless growth machine requires immense space and resources to feed itself. We see this in the staggering loss of our planet's lungs. Currently, we are seeing 17 million hectares of tropical deforestation every single year. To put that into perspective, that's an area roughly the size of Florida completely wiped out every single year. We are literally tearing down the very systems that naturally sequester carbon and stabilize our climate.
And this brings the planetary toll directly back to human survival. You see, the depletion of natural resources isn't just some abstract environmental issue. It is a profound societal crisis. As we sit here today, 2 billion people are facing severe freshwater stress. The fundamental building block of life is becoming a scarce commodity due to our over-extraction and pollution.
Which brings us to this absolutely critical threshold, 1.5 degrees Celsius. This is the internationally recognized global warming target limit. And, as we just saw, we're currently at 1.2 degrees. We are dangerously close to breaching this limit, proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that the planet is under unprecedented acute stress from human activity.
To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a provocative question. We've seen the paradox of our progress, how the incredible strides in human health and wealth have simultaneously pushed our home to the brink. So how can our society shift from an ever-expanding economic model to one of living within planetary boundaries? The data shows we simply cannot continue the trend of the Great Acceleration. I really challenge you to think about how we can finally redesign progress, valuing true sustainability over endless extraction. Because as we saw right at the start, no one else is going to save it for us. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.